Mr. Chair, you're now live.
Great, thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Town of Ajax Committee of Adjustment today for August 26th, 2020. This meeting of the Committee of Adjustment is being held electronically and live streamed on the internet. Due to the COVID-19 emergency and requirements for physical distancing, no in-person attendance is permitted at this meeting. All regular practices and procedures of the committee continue to apply during this electronic meeting. If we encounter any technical difficulties, we may take a brief recess while they are resolved. Thank you for your patience, and we'll now proceed with the meeting. Before moving on to the application portion of this meeting, I would like to confirm whether there are any disclosures of interest from members of committee tonight.
No.
None.
Seeing none, thank you. And if we could look for adoption of the minutes from the July 29th, 2020 meeting held last month.
I'm going to adopt the minutes.
Great, thank you. And is there a seconder? Wasif, thank you. All those in favor? Great.
Dan.
Three in favor, and Lori and Mark abstain as they were not present for that meeting. Okay. Great. The Committee of Adjustment is bound by the Planning Act to assess each application based on its ability to meet 4 tests: that the application is minor in nature, is desirable for the appropriate development or use of the lands, and finally is in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. The process for tonight's meeting will be conducted in the following manner. The applicant and/or agent will be called upon and at their option may provide a brief description of the minor variance application they have applied for. Committee members may ask questions of the applicant and/or agent, after which anyone with a direct interest in the application will be given the opportunity to speak either for or against the application. Once a motion is put forward by a committee member, there will be no further input from the applicant or anyone having interest in the application. After a decision is made, notice will be sent out and there will be a 20-day appeal period. Anyone having interest in the application may appeal to the local planning appeals tribunal within 20 days of the decision of the committee. After 20 days, the decision will become final and binding. And if a building permit or other approvals are required, they may be filed during the appeal period. However, no building permits will be issued until the appeal period is over and the decision becomes final and binding. A respectful decorum during this evening's proceedings is expected of all present at all times. Introducing committee members with us this evening is Mark Pavlik, Cecil Romnath, Wasif Ahmed, Laurie Roberts, and I'm the chair of the committee, Greg Whitfield. And with us from Town of Ajax is Caitlin Grope, Secretary Treasurer and Senior Planner with the Town of Ajax. First application before us for this evening is application A14/20 for 43 Stammers Drive. The applicant is requesting to permit a maximum driveway width of 5.4 meters, whereas the bylaw permits a maximum driveway width of 5 meters. Caitlin, was notice served and were any responses received on the application?
Notice was served and no written responses were received.
Great, thank you. And is the applicant present with us this evening?
Yes, the applicant is present. I'm just notifying them to unmute their microphone. They look
Great,
to be
thank you.
joining by telephone only.
Okay, thank you. So I'll wait while they're unmuting. I'll go over advising that the Committee of Adjustment has recommended approval of the application subject to 5 conditions listed in the staff report. 1, that the subject variance apply only to the property municipally known as 43 Stammers Drive and the driveway apron as shown on the drawing submitted with this application, or the decision shall become null and void. 2, that all areas of existing interlock that exceed the maximum driveway apron width of 5.4 meters be removed as shown in figures 2 and 3 of the report, or a decision shall become null and void. 3, that the owner or applicant obtain an apron widening permit for any permitted widening within the municipal boulevard, or this decision shall become null and void. 4, that the owner or applicant obtain a building permit for the accessory apartment from the town's building services section, or this decision shall become null and void. And 5, that the owner or applicant maintain the historical drainage on the property, or this decision shall become null and void. For the applicant, have you received a copy of this report?
Mr. Chair, unfortunately, it looks like the applicant has not unmuted their microphone.
Well, for members of committee then in this case, do we have any questions for staff or comments on the conditions or variances requested by the applicant? Mark.
Mr. Chair, just a question through you to staff. with the condition of removing the excess interlocking, is it typical that we would require that to be refinished, i.e., having grass reinstalled, or is that not customary customary for us to require as well? So in essence, could the residents simply remove the interlocking and leave it unfinished?
Through the chair, typically we would require them to return the driveway area to its previous, I guess, what's the word? Coverage. Coverage is not really the right word, but return it to its original state, which would have been grass. Typically, we don't really have any way to enforce that. But yes, it would be the requirement to remove the interlocking stones or asphalt area and return it to its original state.
As such, is it possible to amend the condition then to state that?
Sure, the committee can revise the condition as they wish.
That would be my recommendation if the rest of the committee agrees. Otherwise, Mr. Chair, I don't have any other questions.
Great. Well, when it comes to the motion, whoever makes the motion can recommend that revision if they see fit. Do committee members have any other questions or comments on the application?
I have a question, if you don't mind. I'm not sure if the applicant can hear me, but when I was looking at the diagram, it looks as though it says in there that there's a step that's being removed. Actually, I guess this question might be more for staff than the applicant. I apologize. What happens with that area where there's a step that's being removed? How is that step, the fact that there's a height differential, being handled with it being removed?
Through the chair, so they're not actually removing the full step. They're just removing 4 inches of that step to accommodate the width of the driveway.
Okay, sorry, I see that it says 4 inches there. I apologize. Thanks so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments on the application? See none. In that case, we can look for a motion. Mark? Oh, Mark, you're on mute, I think.
Apologies. Mr. Chair, I recommend approval of application A14/20 on the condition that we amend condition 2 to state that not only will they remove the excess existing interlocking, but return that area to the original condition, and subject to the applicant following the rest of the recommendations by staff, as the application is minor in nature and meets the tests set forth by us.
Great, thank you. And is there a seconder on the motion? Sorry, I saw Wassef there first. Okay, and all those in favor? Great, all in favor. Application A14/20 for 43 Stammers is approved, subject to the conditions as amended, subject to the 20-day appeal period. Okay, moving on to application A16/20 for 9 Buggy Lane. The application is requesting to permit an accessory building in a front yard, whereas the zoning bylaw does not permit an accessory building to be located in the front yard, and to permit a total maximum gross floor area of 73 square meters for all accessory buildings and structures, whereas the zoning bylaw permits a maximum of 10% or the greater of 10% or 10% or 60% or 60 square meters of gross floor area to a maximum of 60 square meters. Pardon me. Also to permit a maximum accessory building height of 8.9 meters above established grade, whereas the zoning bylaw permits a maximum permitted height of 4.5 meters above established grade for an accessory structure. Caitlin, was notice served, and were any comments or responses received?
Yes, notice was served, and there were 2 pieces of written correspondence that were received, both of which have been provided to the committee for review.
Great, thank you very much. And for the applicant, a staff report has been written recommending approval of the application subject to 6 conditions within the staff report. 1, that subject variance apply only to the property municipally known as 9 Buggy Lane and the proposed accessory building as generally illustrated in figures 2 to 4 of this report, or the decision shall become null and void. 2, that the owner or applicant obtain written approval from Cougs Development Limited for the proposed accessory building in accordance with the restrictive covenant on the subject property, and that such written approval be provided to town staff prior to the issuance of a building permit, or the decision shall become null and void. 3, that the owner or applicant obtain a building permit for the proposed accessory building from the town's building services section, or the decision shall become null and void. 4, that the proposed accessory building is to be used in accordance with section 4.1.12 of the zoning bylaw 95-2003 as amended. 5, that the owner or applicant install tree hoarding prior to any construction/site alteration in order to ensure the protection and preservation of the existing trees adjacent to the proposed accessory building. And 6, that the owner or applicant maintain historical drainage on the property, or this decision shall become null and void. Is the applicant present this evening?
Yeah.
Great.
I'm just at soccer field, so if you hear a kid.
Not a problem. Have you received a copy of this report?
I got the first one and I read the one coming to the field. The second one came in late.
Okay. Do you have any questions or comments on the conditions outlined by staff?
Nope.
Okay. And if you have anything you'd like to add to the application or like to explain to the committee members, now is your opportunity.
It's not really nothing. It's just the second one that came in because I missed your July 26th one, coaching again. I assume because you guys were virtual and I didn't have any feedback at that time, you didn't have to actually attend, right? Because there was no feedback, but obviously that meant it bumped it to now. Since then, we've had communication. I've had communication with my neighbors in regards to different issues, which he brought up, and that's the first report. So the first report that was sent, he already explained to me in person. The new one that just came up, I'm not even sure if they do. Does everybody in the street get my actual application? That's a question I'm asking.
It's everyone within 60 meters of your subject property will receive a copy of the public notice sent out.
Okay, because just reading it, I don't have the email right in front of me, but just reading it, the comment that was made was in regards to the look of the building, but I'm not sure if he's on the other side of he's at the end of the street. I'm not sure if he's within 60 meters. So I don't know. I'm not sure if he's actually seen my drawings. That's my only confusion because I'm at 9 and he's at 42. It's a long way. I'm assuming that's more than 60 meters.
Perhaps staff could confirm whether or not 42 was included in the circulation area.
Sure, through the chair. The property address at 42 Buggy, it was not captured within the 60-meter circulation area. However, anyone driving by a property for any minor variance, if they see the notice sign that's posted on the property, they do have the opportunity to inquire about the application.
Okay.
So
it was just based off his comment. His comment was the look, and I'm thinking you haven't seen it what it looks like. So that's why I was kind of concerned when he made that comment. So it's hard to really argue against if he hasn't seen it.
Right. Through the chair, I believe, I don't think the resident at 42 Buggy had commented about the look of the proposed accessory structure as it's not being built yet. He did indicate that he had concerns with the setbacks, which are listed on the notice and the sign.
Gotcha. Okay.
And just to confirm through staff, the setbacks for the proposed accessory building do comply with all requirements of the zoning bylaw, correct?
That's correct.
Great, thank you. Okay. For the applicant, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm good.
Okay, great. Are there any questions or comments from members of committee that they have of the applicant or staff?
Mr. Chair, through the chair, I've got a question for staff. There was a piece of communication that came from 7 Buggy Lane, I believe, and while the neighbor is not objecting for this work to proceed, in capturing the neighbors' experiences of past activity at 9 Buggy Lane. They are being very respectful in looking for a construction fence as a barrier to debris. And in answering this question from staff, the town is stating that it's anticipated that a silt fence would be installed along the property line. So my question is, can we be more definite to make this more of a mandatory requirement in terms of silt being in the air? Because this is something that the neighbor is very concerned about.
Through the chair, yes.
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry, through the chair. Yes, that could be an option if the committee wishes to add to the condition regarding the tree hoarding, the tree protection fencing. You could add on to that condition that a silt temporary fence be installed to ensure that no debris would carry on to the neighboring property.
Thank you very much. And I'll save that to the end whilst giving the other members an opportunity.
Just for a question, is the silt fence the black tarp one?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. Okay.
Any further questions or comments from members of committee? Lori?
Through the chair, just more a curiosity question, and either the staff or the applicant can answer it for me. Is this new proposed building blocking access to the existing garage? Just the way it looks on the diagram, I'm just having a hard time figuring out how you access the existing garage that's there.
The problem with the existing garage right now is I have a Dodge Ram, and obviously I have a fancier car. With my fancier car, it fits. My Dodge Ram doesn't fit. The previous owners to the building or the house actually created, this property was deemed, there's been issues with this property. If you go back, it was used as I think a nursing home. So there was modification to the garage that shortened one of the bays. So it's very hard to park the car on that angle with the width of my truck. So I prefer it to be in line with the front of my house. So this new place is not in front of the house. It's actually in line with the other side of my house. So it kind of looks like a U shape. And it's just a lot easier to park all my cars. And then the second part of it is, I'm an active person. I'm the GM of HX Soccer. I got 3 boys, okay? Right now, they're 2, 6, and 7. I want to put a basketball net right at the top. This is my own preference, and I've actually talked to the neighbors about this. And I don't want it near the bottom of the street. I'd rather have it at the top. So where I'm placing this actually allows everything to stay behind and doesn't have it like a basketball net. Because that's not a street you put a, quote unquote, you don't put a basketball net on that street. That just doesn't have that appeal. I'd rather it be blocked by this accessory building.
So just to clarify, with the new garage that is proposed to be installed, does it?
Correct.
And you can no longer park in the old garage? Is that what will happen?
No, I'm going to be using that as more storage. And then I'm actually going to allow those boys to use that as whatever I call it. They can kick the whole house. Because right now they're destroying my basement. So now they can do whatever they want in the garage, shoot pucks, do all the stuff that they want to do as boys. Or rather than destroy my car, because right now my car is scratched, and I have a nice car, and I do not have to have it scratched anymore because we have too much stuff in there.
Through the chair, just to clarify, the proposed new garage does have doors on both corner or both
Correct.
edges, so one could go through the new garage. Assuming this is correct, the applicant can correct me if that's incorrect. One could drive through the new garage to access the existing garage if
exactly.
needed. But I believe the purpose is to use the new garage for most of the sort of everyday parking, and then as the applicant indicated, perhaps they would store an additional car in the existing garage area.
Correct.
Quick question for staff then in that case. There's no concern about reduction of parking spaces then in this case?
No, the driveway would satisfy the driveway itself would satisfy all parking spaces, even without the indoor garage spaces.
Correct.
So no concerns with that.
Okay, great, thank you. Any further questions from members of committee? Oh, Cecil?
Mr. Chair, I have one more question. Just a matter of curiosity, with respect to 9 Buggy Lane, why does 9 Buggy Lane have to seek approval from COGS?
Yes, thank you. That's a question. Sorry. Can I put in there? I actually talked to Eric about that today. When I built my pool house, which I needed to get a variance for that, I didn't seek permission for that. And the last time I had, and then when we were supposed to build the accessory storage in my backyard, I didn't need permission from Codlin, but this one I need permission. That's why I was confused as well.
Okay, and I suppose it's the staff. I guess this has something to do with this property backing into a golf course, and this is the reason why the developer has to be consulted.
Yeah. Okay.
That's correct. There is a restrictive covenant on most of these properties, I believe all of the properties. And that's just to cover off any, avoid any construction that wouldn't be permittable by or I guess wanted by the developer, I guess, because of the location of the existing golf course in place. So that's the reason for the restrictive covenant.
Okay, and through the chair, I suspect this has to do with maintaining the general architecture, the look of the streetscape, the landscaping, and everything that this property is supposed to have, so that nothing gets lost in a new construction. Is that correct?
Exactly, that's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from members of committee? Mark?
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, I read the restricted covenant language, and I do support staff's recommendation to have that approval as a condition, as it seems to the construction is restricted based on the language, right, without approval. So just as information on that. But I do have a question through you, Mr. Chair, to staff on the height grade. It seems like it's double the plan, and so I just question to staff. I guess a two-part question: are we comfortable that something that's double what's in the town plan is still considered minor in nature? Number one, and B, do we have precedent for this? Have height variances of this nature been approved historically in that neighborhood or in the town, or is noting that it's double the plan limit?
Through the chair, I don't have the background on previous variances that have been approved relating to height. Number wise, I know that variances have been approved to increase the height. The main justification for supporting the request is that the applicant is attempting to design the accessory structure to be in keeping with the existing architecture of the house. Sarah, if you could scroll to page 10 of the report, please. So basically, when you're looking at the 4 tests, one of them is, I guess, that it maintains the character and doesn't detract from the existing look of the neighborhood and the character of the neighborhood. So in staff's opinion, the design of the accessory structure is meant to blend in with the existing house. So you can see the elevation there, the proposed accessory structure is to the right. So from the street, it would look like it blends in with the existing dwelling. So from staff's perspective, we don't see an issue with this.
And then with that logic, I guess arguably it would be minor in nature because it does not exceed the height of the house, and in fact blends in the height of the house versus, you know, a different accessory unit that may tower over the house may not be, you know, that would be a different circumstance. So
Correct.
thank you for that feedback.
You're welcome. And just to add on, obviously the homes in this area are of a larger nature as well. So, you know, any other variances regarding accessory structures, of course, would be looked at in regards to the existing structure, the neighborhood, the size of the dwellings, and that kind of thing as well.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments from committee members? Seeing none. Okay. In that case, we look for a motion on the application, please. Wasif?
Through the chair, Wasif's microphone is not registering as connected, just video.
Oh. Give him a second to see if it resolves. No, I don't think so, Wasif. Sorry. Okay. In interest is trying to keep the meeting moving along. Is there any other member of committee with a motion on the application? Cecil?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move to approve minor variance application A1620 to permit an accessory building in the front yard is submitted subject to all conditions as required by staff, as it is minor in nature. Desirable for the appropriate development and use of the land, and it's in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaws. Mr. Chair, I move to approve subject to a silk fence installed along the property line prior to any construction taking place. I move to approve.
Sorry, Cecil, just to clarify, is that amending the existing condition or is that the addition of a new condition? For the...
Well, I believe that should form a new condition, right. just to provide it with a bullet point for staff.
Okay, great, thank you. We can work on the wording for the condition or for the decision. Is there a seconder on the motion? Mark? Okay, seconded by Mark, and all those in favor of the application? All in favor, application A16/20 is approved, subject to the conditions in the staff report plus the new condition as included by Cecil's motion and subject to the 20-day appeal period. Okay, moving on to application A21/20 for 79 Lincoln Street. The application is requesting to permit the lot line and yard along Lincoln Street to be the front lot line and front yard, and redesignate the other lot lines and yards of the subject property accordingly, and to recognize all setbacks affected by this redesignation of lot lines and yards. Whereas the zoning bylaw defines a front lot line to be the, in the case of a corner lot in any residential zone, the shorter lot line that abuts a street shall be deemed the front lot line, and the front yard shall mean a yard extending across the full width of a lot between the front lot line and front walls of the nearest building or structure on the lot. Also requesting to permit a minimum lot depth of 24 meters, whereas the bylaw requires a minimum lot depth of 33.5 meters, and to permit a minimum setback from the rear lot line of 2.1 meters, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a minimum rear lot line setback of 7.5 meters. Caitlin, was notice served and were any responses received?
Notice was served. No written responses were received.
Great, thank you. And for the applicant, staff has written a report recommending approval of the application subject to 2 conditions. One, that the subject variance apply only to the property municipally known as 79 Lincoln Street as shown on the site plan submitted with this application and found as figures 3 and 4 of the report, or the decision shall become null and void. And 2, that the owner or applicant comply with all applicable provisions of the town's fence bylaw 28-2018, or the decision shall become null and void. For the applicant, have you received a copy of this report?
Through the chair, I've just asked the applicant to unmute their microphone.
Great, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Can you hear me? Yes. Yes, I received it.
Great, thank you. Do you have any questions or comments on the conditions recommended by staff?
No.
Great, and is there anything you would like to add to the application for members of committee?
So am I approved for this 2-meter fence, or is, just want to confirm that?
Well, we're not reviewing the or approving the actual fence itself. This is the changes or the variances to the zoning bylaw. So a separate bylaw for right. So you'll still have to seek the approval, the necessary approvals for under the town's fence bylaw.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Any questions or comments for the applicant by members of committee? Lori?
I just have a question for the applicant. Your property, from my understanding, there's quite a bit of, you have quite a bit of trees in the one, like that corner of your property that is at Mill in Lincoln. Are those trees going to stay with the addition of the fence?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
All the trees are staying.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions for the applicant? Seeing none, in that case, can we look for a motion on the application? Lori?
I motion that we approve application A21-20 for 79 Lincoln Street with the 2 conditions that are in the application as it is minor and meets the 4 tests.
Great, thank you. And do we have a seconder on the motion? Seeing Wassef. Okay, all those in favor? Great, all in favor. Application A21-20 for 79 Lincoln Avenue is approved, subject to the conditions in the staff report and the 20-day appeal period. And that concludes the application portion of our meeting this evening. Is there any new or other business committee members or staff have that they would like to discuss before we adjourn?
Through the chair, if I can, I just wanted to clarify for the applicant for 79 Lincoln. So subject to the appeal period, your application has been approved. So that means that you will be able to build the 2-meter fence with the redesignation of the yards on your property.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. That's great.
Thank you, Caitlin. Anything else from members of committee? Seeing none, then if we could look for a motion to adjourn. Lori? And a seconder? Mark? Great. All those in favor? Great. And this meeting of Committee of Adjustment is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.